Hello, everyone. Welcome to Surviving to Thriving. I'm just going to add Olivia. Hang on 1 second now. I have the phone in an odd position, so bear with us now. We will just get and enjoying the last week of the summer holidays. Kids are going back to school soon, so shit's about to get very real.
Ah, there you are.
There,
Brilliant.
How are
Yeah,
you?
I'm grand. I just realised I'm a little bit low, so I'm just going to have to use something to
You
get me
need to
up a
move
little
it.
bit. Listen, it's DIY here now. It's a box of staples and a Lego stand that my little fella uses for stop motion.
Exactly.
That's how we roll here.
Exactly.
That's how Antoinette rolls. It is what it is. We'll do our best. So anyway, thank you so much for coming on, Olivia. Lovely to meet you.
And you too. And you too. It's fab. Thanks a million for having me.
Oh, absolute pleasure, absolute pleasure. So as you know, I started doing these Surviving to Thriving live Instagram events to, I suppose, to connect with moms and to motivate, inspire, and just, I suppose, support moms who are maybe feeling that they're the only ones struggling, or maybe that they're the only ones facing these challenges, and just, I suppose, for there's power in numbers, as I always say, and it takes a village. So it's just, I suppose, a chance for everybody to hear other people's stories and how other people overcame adversity or whatever the case may be. So, Olivia, I am so happy to hear your story because I actually don't know a whole lot about your story. Well, obviously I follow you, but it's just I'm dying to hear your story. So whenever you're ready, tell us what is or how did you come to be where you are now, or what's your journey?
Yeah. So I suppose how I look at the world or how I represent myself on Instagram is because I don't drink anymore. So I stopped drinking 5 years ago. So basically, I grew up in the 90s. I'm 42 now and grew up in the 90s and kind of started drinking in my middle teens. Kind of didn't really experimenting, I suppose, for those first couple of years. But then it kind of
Yeah.
started drinking a lot more when I went to university. I'm from Meath originally and didn't want to go to Dublin to college, wanted to kind of broaden my horizons. So went up the north. So
Right.
that was a challenge in itself. I was young and shy, as we all are, and realised that alcohol made my inner self come out, and it was phenomenal, right? So yeah, like had a bit of social anxiety. Like I think we're all a bit of light, a bit of dark, a bit socially anxious, a bit extrovert. I'm definitely a bit introvert, a bit extrovert as well, but definitely had a lot of social anxiety then because I had to meet a lot of new people, and I was 17. I was there by myself, so yeah, like met a lot of people, did a lot of booze and loved a lot of booze and for a long time. So graduated there, came down to Dublin, lived here, did a bit of traveling, went to Australia, drank myself around Australia, did a bit of working over there, went over to England, did a master's over there. Didn't actually drink over there because I was quite I suppose interested in my studies. So as I kind of reflect now, I know that I drank for connection, not for solving problems or coping or anything like that. Because when the people weren't there, I didn't drink, and I could easily stop drinking if I wanted to. So then my kind of mid to late 20s got a little bit dark, as in I definitely think I suffered from a bit of depression. Alcohol absolutely didn't help that at all. Then met my husband, 28, things started to look up then, really happy, all that kind of stuff. So kind of was drinking at the weekends like everybody else does here in Ireland. All my friends did, the whole lot. I'm a highly sensitive person. I'm highly sensitive to alcohol as well, I think. So when I drank, the hangovers were just absolutely horrendous. And as I got older, they started to be more and more horrendous. Got married, had kids, had 2 kids, one at 34, one at 36. I found motherhood very hard. I very overwhelming. And it was brilliant. And again, there's bouts of brilliance. There's highs and lows and ins and outs and light and shade and the whole lot. But yeah, I think probably what sums it up is it was very overwhelming.
Right.
And we were living in town, and we were priced out of town in terms of buying a house. So we moved out to the suburbs, and that took a lot of getting used to and all that kind of crap. So all my friends were having kids at the same time as well. So there's maybe that bit of isolation. So after I had the kids, obviously didn't drink during the pregnancies. After I had the kids, just never really thought about it. Was just doing what I always did. So like on a night, like Friday night, we might have a bottle of wine between us, right? When the kids went down to bed, start drinking at 7:30 or whatever. And then like our girl didn't really sleep. And then, so we'd go to bed at maybe 10 o'clock, 10:30, and she'd be awake at 11:30, 12. So, but even though it had 2 glasses of wine, when I woke up then, I'd feel like I was having a heart attack. And I was like, am I dying? So then it kind of was like, right, so then I knocked that in the head just because it wasn't worth it. Like, it's not that it was problematic or whatever. It was just like, I'd wake up and feel like shit. And because you were waking a couple of times a night, that was grand. So then they got a little bit older, and then weddings started. Obviously, you know, there's a phase of your life where
I was going to say, you got the wedding sets and everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. So went to a few weddings, and now that I mentor people who want to get off the sauce, the number one place that they kind of want to get, that all the shit happens, is at weddings, because there's so much drink, and it's the bottles of wine on the table, and they start drinking them and don't realize that they get drunk or whatever. But so it was at a wedding. We went to a couple of weddings, and there was an Easter Sunday and blah blah blah, and it became very clear that I couldn't drink. So I gave it up for 30 days, then started again. And I felt great when I gave it up. And then just every time I drank after that, I tried to moderate, and that didn't work. And then just, we were at a wedding in Spain, and just something came over me. And like, I'm deeply spiritual, and I know it was an act of divinity that came over me. And that this is my life's path. And I just handed my husband the drink, and I said that's it. Now, there'd been a lot in the lead up to that, but that's the kind of nuts and bolts of it there. But yeah, it was, and I haven't had a drink since, and it has been the most profoundly transformative action that I've ever taken.
Wow.
And like, I've ran a marathon, I've fasted, I've done water fasts, I've done juicing, I've tried every diet.
Done stuff, like you pushed yourself, I suppose. You pushed yourself to limits and stepped out of your comfort zone before.
A million times, but nothing has had the profound transformation that giving up alcohol has.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm intrigued. And so what you said, like, so back to when you were, because like, it's funny because your story is probably so typical of so many people. Like, they leave, they go to college, start drinking in their mid, go to college, drink their way through college, drink their way around Australia. You know, it's very typical. And then it does get to a stage where, like, what do you think it was for you that you went, I'm done? Like, like, you know, because I think a lot of people are like, oh God, I'm dying all day Saturday, it's not worth it. But at the same time, Friday comes and the bottle of wine is still open. So what do you think it was for you that just made you go, no, I'm out?
So the mental torture that I put myself through, the anguish, the shame, the regret, the guilt. Like I said earlier, I'm a really sensitive, a highly sensitive person. So I tend to feel things really intensely. So when I, like, very dramatic as well. So like, when I had a hangover, I was dead, right?
I'm dead.
I know, like, it was like, Gary, call an ambulance, for I am about to die, you know. But now, knowing that, like, I probably should have called an ambulance because I was so sick. It just meant like I would vomit for 12 hours, like the shame. Then I had this incredible fear of death, because obviously it would, like, the anxiety was very profound. So the physical, there was a lot of physical, like, experiences or whatever. So like, I had heart palpitations, I would like be sweating, like there was just lots of stuff like that. But the heart palpitations made me think that I was on the verge of a heart attack, and that kind of only started really in my 30s. It never had really affected me that much beforehand. But just the sheer mental anguish, the guilt, the shame, all those really negative things, it was It was absolutely horrendous. I just got
Yeah.
it came down to a choice, like, so it was a choice. It was me. I know that like me, or it was the alcohol, because we couldn't exist. We couldn't exist together,
Right.
the two of us. It was just so horrendous.
And then do you think like becoming a mum then, I suppose, because like the fear, like whatever you have to fear when you're young, you're carefree and you're like, sure, look, it'll be grand. It's only me I have to be responsible for.
Yeah.
And suddenly now you've got two dependents and two people who are looking at you and you're a role model. Do you think that sort of like compounded that anxiety and that fear that you had?
Absolutely, because like I would, so when I was hungover, I would take a day off and just like lounge and be in the bed and like really feel sorry for myself and, you know, watch Oprah. Actually, I used to watch Oprah on repeat, and she was like this warm hug. But when you'd have to get up for kids, like it was just so intense. And and you know, so the time that I was over in Spain or whatever, and I gave up the alcohol and I had one of the worst hangover of my life. I thought that I would leave them motherless. So I thought that would be the end of me. So that was the kind
and that in itself is probably enough to put
absolutely
the nail in it. Just
and then I was so. Like all these really negative feelings of deep shame, deep regret, like it takes so much mental space. I was just like, F this, like I'm sorry, I'm just sick of feeling like shit. I'm sick of talking to myself disgustingly. And what kind of example am I setting for these two? Now, in fairness, I have a very, very, I don't know, I drank the way I drank. I know not this lifestyle is not for everybody. I know like my husband drinks. I have not a single problem with that. Loads of people drink. That is their choice. I just know for me, I can't drink. If my kids drink, so be it. Such is life. I have no control over anybody's behaviour, nor do I want to. I just know that I can't do it myself.
Okay. Yeah. So for you, the alcohol manifested in shame, negative self-talk, anxiety, and all those negative, I suppose, things that we're trying to let go of, and you were actually almost bringing it upon yourself with the alcohol. So enough was enough.
Enough was enough. And now that I've kind of untangled from a lot of those affirmation tracks that I had going, so this is going to sound very negative, but this is when I kind of looked at it, that what I called myself was a fat, lazy bitch, right? So that's, I know that's absolutely horrendous, but that was like what I was saying all the time. And alcohol made me, actually kind of compounded that, because it did, like I had weight on and like and it did make me lazy, right? So then when and stupid was another one, like it was just absolutely horrendous. But like, you know, when you're unconsciously thinking these things, 80 or 90,000 thoughts a day, 90% of them are going to be negative. But when I kind of untangled from all of those, I was like, oh my God, I'm speaking to myself horrendously, really horrendously, you know, so I kind of, now I know all of those things are untrue, and I know that alcohol definitely played a part in all of those, me thinking all of those, because now I've been able to untangle from all that and, you know, prove myself wrong.
But I think it's so, like, I think even you saying that now, I think anyone who's listening or anyone who's going to listen after is going to go like, God, I talk to myself like that, because I think it's sort of, maybe it's not something anyone's like, you're not telling your friends that you're doing it, but I think so many people do. I would have done it, you know, and my thing would have been like, I would have been really like, oh, you didn't get out for a walk, you're so fucking lazy, like you're such a, and then you're after eating a load of chocolate, and I would, like, I used to just, I'd be going into bed and I'd be so nasty to myself, and it was a huge thing for me, was becoming my own best friend and speaking to me as I would speak to a best friend. Because if I talked to my friends the way I used to talk to myself, I would have a very lonely life, because I was very, like, you're so nasty to yourself, and it's only when you look back and go, gee, like, that's harsh words to hear to yourself, even though you're saying them, they're still very, very harsh. So it is, like, for you, I suppose that was your thing, to see that you're speaking to yourself so negatively, and you're taking that upon yourself. Like, that's a lot.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, yeah. And it just takes, now, of course, this whole giving up of alcohol catapulted me into this, like, incredible world where I did. So I decided, right, when I gave up alcohol, that I'd surrender to everything, right? So if somebody said to me, oh, there's a healer down in fucking Skellig Michael you need to go to, I'd be all, see you later, off I go. So I decided to do all of that. So I embraced that. So I did a lot of Reiki healing, and I have a couple of women all over the country who I go to, and then I did a lot of affirmation work, and I did a massive amount of meditation, and I consistently did exercise then as well, and a lot of journaling and a lot of talking to myself. You know, I'll be in the car and I'll be like asking myself questions, going, what do you think of that? Just getting your feelings and your thoughts out there, do you know what I mean? And that kind of stuff. So massive amount of healing did. I like a therapist as well, of course. And so it's just so much healing. And then a lot of self-love work. So, you know, inner child, like open any of the presses here in my kitchen and you'll see a little picture of me when I was younger. Because that's what I try to do, a bit of inner child work as well. And, you know, having young kids as well is like a mirror to you. They kind of... you know, because it's like you love them so much and you're so consumed with love for them, and then you're like, oh my god, I had this love from someone, like my parents loved me this way, and it's like, who, me? And you know, and trying to replace that love back into yourself, and like, do you know what, even so I gave up booze when I was 37 and I'm now in my 40s or whatever, but just even being in my 40s is like the gift that keeps on giving,
isn't it?
Give a shite, do you?
And there is something, someone said to me, like, when you turn 40 you just stop caring, and you really do. And I really feel like, you know, like I specifically coach women in their 40s, and I just think like that 40 now for me is like, it's like the new chapter, but it's like the chapter that's kind of my chapter. It's like, you know, I think like, you know, in your 20s you might be focusing on work and maybe meeting people or whatever you're doing. Then your 30s, a lot of people are still obviously focusing on career, but you're having their kids. And then by 40 you're kind of going like, you're the cloud of those sleepless nights and stuff is kind of lifting for some, and you're going, I'm still young. Jesus, I could do anything, and I'm 40. Like, this is epic. I've got so much more to do and so much more to give and so much more time. So I think 40s is definitely the sweet spot for us.
Absolutely. It's absolutely gorgeous. You know, I don't think I'd go back to my teens or 20s for like diamonds.
No, not now with social media. I wouldn't, because I wouldn't last. Come on, no way. But what was I going to say? What I was going to say to you was, because I suppose a lot of people will be sitting going, Asher, like that, how would you go to a wedding without drinking? Like, how has that been for you? Like, what is like, 'cause, like, you've mentioned the internal stuff, you've done all the kind of the inner heal and all that, but like environment, like when you're going out for drinks or you're going out for dinner, like, how is that?
Yeah, it's all right now. Like, everyone knows now at this stage, 5.5 years down the road, right? It was very tricky in the beginning because, right, think of what you think of it, especially us, right? So we grew up like 90s culture was that ladette. There was a heavy focus on alcohol marketing. There was the whole feminization of alcohol marketing, all this crap. So we were right in the middle of it. So we were kind of brought up, alcohol is king. So that's the way we generationally we all think. Now I deliver workshops to teenagers and young people, and they don't think that anymore. They're like, oh, good. Yeah, so I was like, oh my god, this is magic. Keep talking to me. So they think like being out drunk is kind of scarlet. Like, they think it's embarrassing, and they think that people who don't drink. Now I can get it either ways. Like, it depends on the group that I'm talking to. Some groups think that, like, people who are sober are boring. Other groups think that people who are sober or who don't drink have loads of wisdom and they're really motivated and they've got great ambition and stuff like that. So, but anyway, so obviously my generation. So like, I was a big drinker. I wasn't. There was times that I was. Right. So there was times of heavy drinking. There was times of no drinking. There was times of light drinking. There was, you know, all these kinds of different times of drinking. So a lot of my friends had this kind of I'm surmising that they thought that I had become some kind of cult freak. That, oh God, she's not one of those anymore.
Yeah, like you're
you know
sitting
what I mean?
there, like
But
sitting there with your legs crossed, doing yoga, or
exactly.
yeah, yummy, yeah, all that.
Well,
That
like,
was what.
kind of am one of them as well. But anyway.
So am I, but I love it.
Yeah, so anyway, no, it was difficult because, and it's funny, right? I was talking to a friend of mine and we went to New Zealand a few years ago, and like 15 years ago, and she didn't drink on that trip. And you know what? She actually only reminded me, I can't remember saying this to her, but she said that I said to her, we're going to have to reassess our friendship now that you don't drink. So that's who I was. So imagine a few years later, I then become this pious, non-drinker. Like, of course, people were shocked. But listen, it became too much that I obviously couldn't do it because of all the negative stuff that I talked about there. But the benefits and the advantages were so addictive, and they were so good that I would never have compromised that for what I knew what the other alternative was, which was waking up and feeling like shit. So like, I practiced dancing, there's a time, like, I'm not out till 3 o'clock in the morning. Now, my very best friend got married in April, and I was one of the last on the dance floor there. So like, I'll make an exception if they're very close friends and whatever. But like, there's a time, when you have to go home, and it's when somebody starts telling you the same story 2 or 3 times, and you just sneak out the door. Like, it is harder, but it's just the benefits. And even just getting older, like, I enjoy the simple pleasures in life. I love going to bed with my kids on. I love watching a bit of telly. I love getting up early and doing maybe a bit of exercise or a bit of meditation or whatever. So I know that now more clearly about myself in my 40s than I ever did. So it's that whole cost benefit. So like, what am I doing? Is it going to cost me 3 days, or I could choose that, or I could choose the one that benefits my life exponentially,
Right.
So
is that sort of, would you say that's the big kind of mindset shift for you, is that you're able to, it's your why? It's the reason. So when you're out and maybe it's like your why is so strong, I'm not doing this because your why. So you don't get tempted. It's like, this is how I live because I have a strong why.
The why, it was so big. So I had a why on the cover of my phone for the first couple of weeks, right? So the why became, like, I became obsessed with the why. And I just knew I couldn't go back to beforehand. Now I don't even think of anything. It's just who I am. And do you know what? We were only talking yesterday. I was saying, even if I had a week to live, in that week, I wouldn't even have a drink.
Yeah.
It just doesn't, it's just completely not, it's not even a thing anymore.
Wow. It's literally just second nature. It's just, as you said, it's just become who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, the benefits are just phenomenal. They're just,
this is what I was going to get to now. Talk about the benefits of it. Like, like you were saying, like, it has profoundly changed. Like, what are the big benefits for you?
So the biggest benefit at the beginning was the whole, like, let's say we did go to a wedding or whatever, and I would open my eyes the next morning and, like, I would remember everything. So that was just exemplary. Like, I just couldn't believe that. So that there wasn't that little open your eyes and go, oh fuck, what did I do last night? And this follow on of shame and guilt.
Oh yeah.
But there was none of that. So that was that was the thing that kept me going the most. It's the freedom. It's just like, I've nothing to be ashamed of. I can talk and say, and I blacked out a lot, so like there's no more blackouts or whatever. But it's that kind of promise to myself. Like, if I say on a Monday, I'm going to do 15,000 steps every day now, I'll do them, because nothing's pulling me back. So there was this kind of push-pull, this kind of hamster wheel that everyone talks about when they do. You just keep going round and round and round, and the stagnation, right? So feeling stuck all the time. Like, so I felt not that I was stuck in my life. Like, I have a lovely job, I have a gorgeous husband, like, I have great kids, like, I have a really gorgeous, successful life that I'm incredibly grateful for. But just that feeling of stagnation. Was Olivia really moving anywhere? Well, she wasn't, and I wasn't. So, like, since I've given it up, like, I went back to university last year, like, and that kind of whole affirmation track I was talking about earlier, the stupid thing, like, so I had that kind of in the back of my mind or whatever. And then I went to university, and like we were saying, in our 40s, I got like a grade point average or whatever. Like I got 8 A1s in that course.
Wow.
Right? Like, hello, while doing a full-time job, our son had broken his hip. Like, there was loads of different factors, but I still did well. So then, like, you achieve. So like, how I now look at that. So I had all this potential that was being veiled. Because I was having a bottle of wine on a Friday night and a Saturday night, and I was groggy on a Sunday and groggy on a Monday or whatever. So like, all this potential was veiled by alcohol. So you remove that, and then it just, potential comes, and clarity and consistency and motivation and energy and all these things, and you're like, hooray!
Yeah,
you know,
this is life.
This, and absolutely, okay, you're missing out on, I don't know, porn star martinis or whatever, shots or whatever, you know, but come here, I had been there, I had done that, I bought 50,000 t-shirts. You know, so it just came to the point then, it's just so life affirming. And you know, you will never meet a person who's given up alcohol who said, geez, that's the worst thing I've ever done. They'll always say it's the best things that I've ever done. And please believe me when I tell you, it will be the greatest thing that you'll ever do, because it definitely has been for me.
Yeah, because I think alcohol, like you said, it's that crutch, and it's that crutch that was like, it's socially acceptable, in fact, probably encouraged, not at home, but you know, by your friends and your peers and society and just culture. We had that drinking culture, but it was, you know, you were drinking as a crutch, you know, that, like, basically, you know, we didn't all love the taste of whatever naggins of vodka that we might have been drinking when we were young. Like, none of us drank because we were like, oh, this is delightful. Like, you're drinking as a crutch, you're drinking to fit in, you're drinking because it's peer pressure. And then as you get older, you're leaning into it for whatever reason. And I think now moms are leaning in because it's like, life is so stressful and we're so busy and it's just overwhelming. And the mental load is huge. And they're living for that bottle of wine on a Friday night, not for any other reason other than just decompress. Absolutely. And I suppose that's a mindset shift, that's a society, that's a culture shift, that's something people have to do within themselves. It's something that we're all responsible for, because like, I would have used to live for that bottle of wine, and I changed my life and I changed things, and I don't, and it's not that I'm actively like, I'm not drinking on a Friday night. I don't need to, because I don't need to decompress, thankfully, anymore from my life, because I've put the systems in place, I've changed my environment, I've done all the internal work, so I don't feel the need to decompress on a Friday, because I love my life and I'm quite happy. I could have a bottle of wine if I wanted to. I actually sometimes buy one out of habit, and I have one glass and I'm like, I'm going to throw that down the sink now on Sunday, because I don't actually drink anymore, because I was leaning into alcohol to decompress or to just relax, because I was so tense from living so stressed, and you know, I was so busy and life was so hectic. So like, for you, what would you say, you know, so when you are having those busy weeks, because even though you don't drink, you still, you know, you still have stressful weeks. Do you have any rituals or things that you do lean into when life gets stressful or hard or overwhelming?
Yeah, so I need a lot of alone time.
Right.
So I need a lot of time to recharge my batteries. So I read an awful lot, right? So I have a Kindle beside the bed. I leave it in so many hotels. I bring it everywhere. But I have it beside the bed, and that's my go-to. So I don't think about it. I don't stress out at night because I read my Kindle or whatever. So I do a lot of meditation. So I did one this morning at 7 o'clock. And I woke up like an absolute bastard this morning. I was just so tense, and I'm a rat bag, right? So woke up like a rat bag this morning, was like, right, there's only one thing forward. So I did a gorgeous meditation, and then I'm like, oh, wow. So did that for like 20 minutes here, and I wear a little mask as well. So I totally get out of me. So I go somewhere else, and then I get a bit of perspective. So it's all about getting perspective. So changing your mindset, changing your environment. So I'll go out for a walk, or like I do boot camp a couple of times a week in the morning time, and that just changes you. It doesn't get the endorphins going. Just anything to make me feel better. So when I gave up alcohol as well, I said I'm really into like alternative things. Like, so I'm open to everything. Give me an opinion, I'll take anything on, you know, so gut health. So I really started to, so I was like, do I have leaky gut? Right. And then I started looking into that. So, you know, I do bouts of giving up gluten, and like I take Simprove every morning and have done for the last few years, like kombucha, fermented foods, all that kind of stuff. So that will boost my serotonin levels as it is.
Right.
Feel better like that. Again, get the exercise going, get those dopamine hits, all that kind of stuff. Little affirmations. I have a vision wall up in my bedroom. Sometimes I'll go and look at all those things, and just to lift my mood or whatever. Chat to people, talk, like meet with friends, whatever. Go on weekends away, whatever. All that kind of stuff, just to kind of break the mentality. And you know, you were saying about, you know, stress and overwhelm and all that kind of stuff as well. What I found, I kind of suffered a bit from underwhelm. So my life was kind of, especially when I gave up booze, because you're used to that kind of high and a bit low or whatever, just felt a little bit underwhelming. Until I really got into it. And then you just start looking at, you know, the joy and the tiny things. So like going for a little coffee, or, you know, and I think probably we're just so surrounded by social media, and like we look at all these Instaverse reality, and like sometimes, you know, I kind of said to myself today, I'm going to throw my phone into the bin or something, because like,
I know, and it's not only you're comparing yourself. You're like, oh God, she's lovely, or you're like, oh God, they did that as a family. I've done nothing today. I'm such a bad, whatever it is. Or it's like the bad news, and it's like there's more fucking what's going on in the world, and it is overwhelming to the point of it's a lot for
now. And just about the news, I stopped watching the news in 2009. So I'm 14 years off the news.
Oh my God, I stopped watching the news now, 2020. Done.
No.
Done.
So, 2009. So like that.
Wow.
It was the time of the crash, the recession. And I absorbed it all, was literally so down about it that I was like, right, I'm done. So I know nothing that's going on. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd be quite like that. And I used to be on Twitter, and oh Jesus, tonight, like I'd be like sitting there, like, oh Jesus, what's going to happen? And like, you're like, why am I doing this to myself? This is other people. Or I'm thinking, someone who I don't know, who I probably wouldn't have anything to do with in the real world. I'm looking at their thing, going like, yeah, they're dead, right, or whatever. Like it's and I think that's one thing that like we sometimes, I think we as a mothers, we're like, well, our mothers were able, and my mother had 6 kids, and she worked, and she whatever did, and they were, you know, we're such a comparing ourselves, and we're like, we all need to stop, because our mothers did not live in the world that we live in, and things were very, very, very different. So we need to stop comparing ourselves to past generations, because this is a completely different world we're trying to navigate and trying to hold it all together, and it's another layer that we're putting on top of ourselves, going, well, like, well, my mother was able to manage it, she had 10 kids, and I've only got 2, and I'm struggling. And it's like, no, stop. Because your mother probably sat down and knitted, or probably, you know, or whatever. Like, I always think about my mother knitted, and like, that was her mindfulness, because that was what she did in the evening to unwind. And we're sitting, like, scrolling, looking at the news, and getting more overwhelmed. So I think we tend to, the world we live in is very, very different. And I love all the practices you did, because they're all, like, everything you've done are very doable. It's not like you had to go and like train with the shaman monks or anything like that. Like, everything you're doing from home. You're doing, like, your vision board, your glance just on the wall. They're all little things that you can incorporate. They don't take money. They don't take time. It's just an intention.
Yeah, and YouTube, actually. So like, I'm listening to a book by Jerry and Esther Hicks at the minute, and the whole audio of it is on YouTube, so I didn't have to pay for anything. And then, like, just writing and talking and getting it all out and running, and I've a couple of kettlebells here that get lashed out of it every so often. Do you know what I mean? So like, it's just all these little things that, you know, make you feel better. Do you know?
And they're all just natural sources of all the good stuff that we need, all the happy hormones that we need to feel good. And I think, like, I do the gym, like, I'm up in the morning and I do just this mad gym class, but literally it's 45 minutes where I'm not thinking, where I'm just, it's like a little escape from Antoinette's brain for 45 minutes, and then I can wake, and I just come out and I'm like, I'm fantastic. Whatever the day is going to throw at me, I'm ready.
Yeah.
And I could wake up and be like, oh God,
yeah,
with this worry. And by the time I finish in the gym an hour later, I'm like, what was that even about? So it is finding what works for you.
absolutely.
And knowing what you need. Like you said this morning, you woke up like a bastard and you were like, I know what I need. I need to meditate. So like it's knowing what you need in those moments, whether it's rest, whether it's sleep, whether it's meditating, whether it's a run, lash a kettlebell. It's knowing what works for you to take you out of that hole you're in.
Exactly. And just saying that sleep, actually, we sleep like 2 wee logs in this house. And like we prioritize sleep over everything. All the people I work with slag me off. They're like, oh, this one should be in bed at 8 o'clock. It's actually, it's past my bedtime now. But anyway,
okay. Sorry about that.
No, but I just, do you know what? I say this to loads of people. You know, when you have, right, you've 50,000 worries or whatever, put your little Kindle beside you in bed, go to bed. You only have 30,000 then when you wake up. Do you know, like worries dissolve in your brain and it kind of processes them and shoots them out somewhere else. But yeah, so like all these really nerdy, wholesome, right, gorgeous little practices. They don't cost something, you know, so.
They can make it, and at the end of the day, they pay dividends at the end of our lives. Like as we get older, the stuff we're doing now, like that meditating, all that stuff we're doing now is going to pay off in 20 years time when we're like just zen and we're just, and our brains are working and we have the foundations in place and you kind of know, like, you know, so I always think like what we're doing now, it's impacting your family, it's impacting yourself, and it's going to pay dividends in 20 odd years time.
Exactly.
So Olivia, you mentor people, moms or everybody and anyone who want to give up alcohol.
If the dog on the street wanted to get off the sauce, I'd be like, Fido, come on in, pet.
In you come.
In you come, little Fido. No, anybody. It's generally women, right?
Yeah.
A couple of men have come on workshops or whatever, but it's generally kind of women. And it's generally women of the same kind of vintage as me and who grew up in the same environment, who, you know, and to be honest with you, the majority of they're not coming into me when they absolutely adore alcohol. They're like at the end of their tether. They've been at weddings, made shows of themselves. They've done X, Y, and Z like I've done. They're just at the end of the road. They're ready for change. And then if they're not ready for change, they'll come back in a couple of months when they are ready. And, you know, giving up alcohol involves a lot of stopping and starting. So, and in that stopping and starting process, you learn so much about yourself. So like, I gave up on the 1st of December 2017, gave up for 30 days, then decided I was fixed and then I could start moderating again. So then I drank and stopped and drank and stopped for another 7 months then, and then it was done. So like everybody's journey is different, but what generally happens is they'll give it up, go back, learn a lot, give it up, go back, learn a lot, give it up, feel the benefits, go back. And it's that kind of thing. But yeah, so I run workshops probably twice a month. I do them on a Sunday morning because Sunday morning is the exact morning you get back when you give up drinking. So I run it on Sunday mornings from 9 until 12, and then anyone who feels that they need a bit of extra scaffolding or a bit of extra help, then we'll do one-to-one sessions. So they're about an hour long whenever people, usually after work or whatever. So yeah.
Okay. Brilliant. And if you could give one bit of advice, maybe there's a mom sitting at home kind of saying like, I'm probably leaning into that bottle of wine maybe once or twice a week. I can't do this. Like there's no way I can like maybe do what I can do or go to weddings or do social events off the drink. What bit of advice would you give?
So get out a piece of paper, right? And so I do this on the workshop. So I just we do a lot of journaling during them. So we say, one of the questions is, how does alcohol enhance your life? So you write out a couple of them. And then how does alcohol make your life better? And how does alcohol make your life worse? Right? So have a look at them, see which list is longer. And that's just a little realization. Okay, it's not serving me the way it used to be. So like me drinking a bottle of wine now every Friday and Saturday night probably has a worse impact than lashing 10 Bacardi Breezers into you when you were 18. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's trying to assess your relationship with it now,
Now.
not 20 years ago, or not even 10 years ago, or not 5 years ago. So I'm just kind of looking, right, what are my beliefs around alcohol? Do I believe that I need alcohol to have a good time? Do I believe that I need alcohol to be a fun person, to be creative, to be connected to my friends or whatever? So it's just looking at how alcohol is around us in the world, and in Ireland. Jesus, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere, you know, at weddings, funerals, communions, christenings, everything. And so just have a look at, you know, how you use it, and is it serving you?
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, listen, Olivia, thank you. I could waffle on here all night, only I know.
I could go to bed.
But look, sorry, way past your bedtime. Well, look, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story and giving all your nuggets of insight and information and advice. And thank you so much. It was lovely connecting with you, and it was great hearing your story. And well done. And thank you. I think you're an inspiration. I think you're kind of like you're showing people that there is another way. We don't always have to just kind of do what you're doing. You can actually step out of the avenue you're on and choose a different path. And as you said, the impact has been profound on your life. So well done. And thank you for sharing your story.
That's gorgeous. Thanks.
So listen, thank you so much. Go to bed. Go to bed now, quickly. And look, I will talk to you soon. And thank you so much. Okay,
gorgeous.
thank you.
Thanks,
bye-bye. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.